A few months ago, I came across this absolutely incredible book called Aryan Sun Myths: The Origin of Religions from 1889 by Sarah Elizabeth Titcomb, and she did an astounding amount of research. After this artwork, I'll show you the cover of the book, and then I will show you the 5 pages of research resources that she used, which is amazing because it is also an incredible list that we all should check out for some hidden gems. But this lady compiled so much incredible knowledge that I've been pondering how to breach it to you all. So first I'm going to start with this introduction video, which features apart from the appendix. And I might do a couple of videos based on the stories in the appendix because they're absolutely incredible. And then I'm going to go and touch upon the actual main chunk of the book, which is kind of proving that the religions that we know and that are popular today have been passed on for so long, for thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, maybe even longer as far as we know, because we really don't know the exact truth. We just know that the script that a lot of people refer to as gospel, etc., has been compromised many times, rewritten, changed, altered, plucked from different sources, picked different good things, manipulated, altered, just ridiculously changed since the dawn of time and since the origin of the religions. And this goes really deep into it, so I definitely recommend checking it out if you want to get a head start on some of the content that I've got coming up. But I'll do some talks and some art to focus on it and show some cool videos. But this one I wanted to start with the Appendix F, which I find really incredible because it is about the calendar. It's kind of a good way to breach the subject of this book, but also take a look at all these sources. I'll show the text for what I'm reading, the appendix, and then I'm going to show some incredible art from different calendars throughout time. They're kind of alchemical, they're a little dark in nature, but I wanted to show them either way because they're pretty cool. And this Herculean take on the passage of time throughout the year is really incredible, and I hope you all will like it. But I had to put it here. This is the start of the Aryan Sun Myths: The Origin of Religion series, and here we go. Let's get into this. This Appendix F says, an explanation of the Herculean, or of the sacred poem on the 12 months and on the sun, worshipped under the name of Hercules. So here we go. The following comparison of the legend of Hercules with the constellations which preside over the 12 months is from Dupois, see Origin of All Religions. Whatever may have been the opinions about Hercules, he was surely not a petty Grecian prince, renowned for his romantic adventures. It is the mighty luminary which animates and fructifies the universe, the divinity which has been honored everywhere by the erection of temples and altars and consecrated in religious song by all nations. From Meroe in Ethiopia and Thebes in Upper Egypt to the British Isles and to the snows of Scythia, from ancient Taprobane and Palibothra, I want to check those out, in the Indies to Cadiz and the shores of the Atlantic Ocean, from the forests of Germany to the burning sands of Libya. Wherever the blessings of the sun were experienced, there the worship of Hercules is found established. There are sung the glorious deeds of this invincible god. Many centuries before the epoch which is assigned to the son of Alcmena, or to the supposed hero of Tyrinthia, as the time when they made him live, Egypt, Phoenicia, which surely did not borrow their gods from Greece, had erected temples to the sun under the name of Hercules, and had carried his worship to the island of Thasos and to Cadiz, where they had consecrated a temple to the year and to the month, which divided it into 12 parts, or in other words, to the 12 labors or 12 victories which conducted Hercules to immortality. It is under the name of Hercules Astrokeiton, or of the god clad in a mantle of stars, that the poet Nonus designates the sun god worshipped by the Tyrians, Tyrians, the titles of the King of Fire, or Lord of the World and of the planets, or of Nourisher of mankind, of the God whose glowing orb revolves eternally around the earth, and who, while followed in his track by the year, the daughter of time and mother of the 12 months, draws along in regular succession the seasons which renew and reproduce themselves, are so many traits of the sun that we should recognize them even if the poet had not given to his Hercules the name of Helios, or the sun. The author of the hymns which are attributed to Orpheus, describes in the most precise manner the affinity, or rather the identity, of Hercules with the sun. The Phoenicians have consequently preserved the tradition that Hercules was the sun god, and that his 12 labors represented the journey of this luminary through the 12 signs of the zodiac. Porphyrius, born in Phoenicia, makes the same assertion. The Egyptians, says Plutarch, thought that Hercules had his seat in the sun and that he traveled with it around the world. The Scholiast of Hesiod tells us also that the zodiac in which the sun accomplishes its annual course is the real career which Hercules travels over in the fable of the 12 labors, and that by his marriage with Hebe, the goddess of youth, we must understand the year which renews itself at the end of each revolution. It is evident that if Hercules is the sun, as is shown by the above-cited authorities, the fable of the 12 labors is a solar fable which can have reference only to the 12 months and to the 12 signs of which the sun travels over one in each month. This inference shall become a demonstration by the comparison which we shall make of each of the labors with each one of the months, or with the signs and constellations which mark the division of time in the heavens during each of the months. Amongst the different epochs at which formerly the year began, that of the summer solstice was one of the most remarkable. It was on the return of the sun to this point that the Greeks fixed the celebration of their Olympic feasts, the establishment of which was attributed to Hercules. This was the origin of the most ancient era of the Greeks. We shall therefore fix the departure of the sun Hercules there, in its annual route, the sign of the lion, domicile of that star which furnishes it with its attributes, having formerly occupied that point. His first labor shall be his victory over the lion, and it is indeed the one which has been placed at the head of all the others. But before we shall compare month for month the series of the 12 labors with that of the stars, which determine and mark the annual route of the sun, it is well to observe that the ancients, in order to regulate their sacred and rural calendars, employed not only the signs of the zodiac, but more frequently also remarkable stars, placed outside of the zodiac, and the various constellations which, by their rising and setting, indicate the place of the sun in each sign. The proof of this will be found in the Fastes of Ovid, in Columella, and chiefly in the ancient calendars, which we have published as a sequel to our larger work. So we're definitely going to have to check that book out. But this next part is pretty cool. So it's going to go month by month, and it's going to say the calendar, and that happens with that month relating to Hercules, and then the poem, the title of the first canto or the first labor, so the labors of Hercules, and how these ancient people kind of expressed the process of time, the development of time, the development of the year. They visualize the year. I don't even totally understand. Our minds in this era have been so bombarded with crap that it's tough for us to break through of what the ancient mind was like. Living in a world like this, with these myths and all these different stories to explain these processes that had metaphorical meanings, and God knows what their language was, how vivid their language and their detail was, that got lost over time. But just the fact that we can get a glimpse, we get the cliff notes of what they thought, and we're using that, we're filtering that through our minds, which have been polluted with just filth. So much lies, TV, crap, garbage, just no priorities in the right spot, no just the disconnection to this ethereal, metaphysical universe has just been so just attacked in all of us that it's tough to really grasp. But as an artist, I love embracing this stuff and trying to just tap into that imagination, trying to tap into the distant parts of my mind that know something, whatever it is that's lost, and you got to kind of dig it back. And so hopefully this will jar it up in some of you. Again, keep commenting. I love your comments. Again, if for anyone that's out there or new to this, I am just proposing theories that enhance the mind, enhance the imagination, enhance the visionary aspects of creativity and our creative mindsets. I'm not claiming anything to be 100% factual. I'm not claiming to know all the answers or any of the answers. I love when you all teach me stuff. I am always willing to learn. That's what I'm here for, just to learn as much as I can and visualize it and create art from what I learn in music, art, all that stuff. Either way, just to clarify, now I'm going to read these last parts, the 12 months, the calendar, and the poem. Here we go. First month, passage of the sun under the sign of the celestial lion, called the Lion of Nemea, fixed by the setting in the morning of the Ingeniculus, or the constellation of the celestial Hercules. And corresponding with that is the title of the first canto, or the first labor, which is Victory of Hercules over the Nemean lion. Second month, the sun enters the sign of the Virgin, marked by the total setting of the celestial Hydra, called the Lernaean Hydra, the head of which rises again in the morning with the Cancer. Second labor, Hercules slays the Lernaean Hydra, the heads of which grew again, whilst he is cramped in his labor by a crawfish or cancer. Third month, passage of the sun at the commencement of autumn to the sign of the Balance, fixed by the rising of the celestial Centaur, the same whose hospitality Hercules enjoyed. This constellation is represented in the heavens with a leather bottle filled with wine in a thyrsus adorned with vine leaves and grapes, image of the season's product. Then rises in the evening the celestial bear, called by others the boar, and the animal of Erymanthea. The third labor. A centaur gives hospitality to Hercules. His fight with the centaurs for a cask of wine. Victory of Hercules over them. He slays a terrible wild boar which devastated the fields of Erymanthea. Very, very interesting. The fourth month, April. The sun enters the sign of the Scorpion, fixed by the setting of Cassiope, a constellation which was formerly represented by a hind. The fourth labor. Triumph of Hercules over a hind with golden horns and feet of brass, which Hercules took on the seashore where it was reposing. Fifth month, May. The sun enters the sign of Sagittarius, consecrated to the goddess Diana, whose temple was at Stymphalia, in which the Stymphalian birds were to be seen. This passage is fixed by the rising of three birds, the vulture, the swan, and the eagle, pierced by the arrow of Hercules. The fifth labor. Hercules gives chase, near Stymphalia, to the birds of the Stymphalian lake, which are represented in number 3 in the medals of Perinthus. Wonder if there's any art on this. Have to maybe find it for another video. Sixth month, June, my month. Passage of the sun to the sign of the goat or the Capricorn, son of Neptune, according to some, and grandson to the sun, according to others. This passage is marked by the setting of the river of the Aquarius, which flows under the stable of the Capricorn, and the source of which is in the hands of Aristaeus, son of the river Peneus. Sixth labor. Hercules cleans the stables of Augeas, the son of the sun, or, according to others, the son of Neptune. He makes the river Peneus run through it. Seventh month, July. The sun enters the sign of Waterman, or Aquarius, and at the place in the heavens where the full moon was found every year, which served to denote the epoch for the celebration of the Olympic Games. This passage was marked by the vulture, placed in the heavens alongside the constellation called Prometheus, at the same time that the celestial bull, called the bull of Pariphae and of Marathon, culminated in the meridian at the setting of the horse Aryan, or Pegasus. And the seventh labor says Hercules arrives at Elis. He was mounted on the horse Aryan. He drags along with him the bull of Creta, beloved by Pasiphae, which afterwards ravaged the plains of Marathon. He institutes the celebration of the Olympic Games, where he is the first to enter the lists. He kills the vulture of Prometheus. I wonder what this ancient book is from, or what the source of a lot of this is from, because, wow. Eighth month. Passage of the sun to the sign of the fishes, fixed by the rising in the morning of the celestial horse, the head of which is bearing on Aristaeus, or on the Aquarius, the son of Cyrene. Eighth labor. Hercules makes the conquest of the horses of Diomedes, the son of Cyrene. Ninth month, September. The sun enters the sign of the ram, consecrated to Mars, and which is also called the ram of the golden fleece. This passage is marked by the rising of the ship Argo, the setting of Andromeda, or of the celestial woman, and of her girdle, by that of the whale, by the rising of Medusa, and by the setting of the queen Cassiope. Ninth labor. Hercules embarks on board the ship Argo in order to make the conquest of the ram of the golden fleece. He fights with martial women, daughters of Mars, from whom he takes a magnificent girdle, and liberates a maiden exposed to a whale or a sea monster, like the one to which Andromeda, the daughter of Cassiope, was exposed. 10th month, October. The sun leaves the ram of Phrixus and enters the sign of the bull. This transit is marked by the setting of Orion, who was in love with the Atlantides or Pleiades, by that of Bootes, the driver of the oxen of Icarus, by that of the river Eridanus, by the rising of the Atlantides, and by that of the goat, the wife of Faunus. 10th labor. Hercules, after his voyage with the Argonauts, in order to conquer the ram, returns to Hesperia to make the conquest of the oxen of Geryon. He also kills a tyrannical prince who persecuted the Atlantides, and arrives in Italy at the house of Faunus at the rising of the Pleiades. Wow. The 11th month, November, the sun enters the sign of the Twins, which transit is indicated by the setting of the dog Procyon, by the cosmical rising of the great dog, followed by the stretching out of the Hydra, and by the rising in the evening of the celestial swan. And that makes me think that maybe the months are not numbered exactly as they are today, because sun enters the sign of the Twins, that would be Gemini, so who knows. But again, the 11th labor. Hercules conquers a terrible dog, the tail of which was a serpent, and the head of which was bristling with serpents. He defeats also Cygnus, or the prince swan, at the time in which the dog star scorches the earth with its fire. Whew. In the 12th month, the sun enters the sign of the Cancer, which corresponds with the last month, indicated by the setting of the stream of the waterman and of the centaur, by the rising of the shepherd and his sheep at the time when the constellation of the Hercules in Geniculus is descending towards the occidental regions called Hesperia, followed by the polar dragon, the guardian of the apples growing in the garden of the Hesperides, which dragon he puts under his feet as marked in the sphere, in which falls near him towards the setting. Jeez, that needs to be solved. 12th labor regarding that month. Hercules travels in Hesperia in order to gather golden apples guarded by a dragon, which in our spheres is near the pole, according to others, to carry off sheep with a golden fleece. He is preparing to make a sacrifice, and puts on a robe dyed in the blood of a centaur whom he had slain at the passage of a river. By this robe he is consumed with fire. He dies, and ends thus his mortal career, in order to resume his youth in heaven, and to enjoy their immortality. Wow. So incredible of a book, and it's just the beginning. Wait till you find the rest of this book. This is one of the best books I've come across. I recommend you all check it out. It is visionarily inspiring beyond comprehension. The drawing above is an old celestial map of the northern constellations that I did in like 2011 or something like that. So the scan's not that great, but I've always been fascinated by how these characters and these stories came to be in the sky. And in religion, the origins of religion has always been amazingly fascinating to me, because I've always felt like if I'm going to wholeheartedly believe in something, I need to know it's not bogus. And I need to know it has some connection to me that's divine, or I need some form of divine proof, kind of, or something more than just reading from a book. And so I've always kind of been fascinated by this. I've always tried to find different ways, and it's always made me think, like, where do these stories come from? How could mortals living in the woods even comprehend of gods and some of these mythological stories of epic proportions that they have? Like, how can you possibly fathom something that, if you're just naturally kind of born in the woods like a wild animal, that it's something that you can't even, that's even beyond that fathomability? You need some kind of, either a substance like a psilocybin or some kind of psychedelic divine entheogen, or you need there to be divine beings in the world. There needs to be gods. There needs to be beings that you're observing, that you're seeing doing these things. And so I wonder, was at some point in these ancient religions, was there a witness to the creators of this world? The people that built the towers, the people that built the everything, the people that carved this place out, that terraformed this place originally. And how long ago is that? Is it billions of years, millions of years? Is it eternity? Was there a beginning to this? Did a giant being just kind of create us in a petri dish, or was this just going since the dawn of time? All these questions plague us. They're things we can never know. No matter how many times people get angrily will say like, you have to believe in this. Why? There's never been any proof, and I'd rather just kind of exist in a lot of perpetual theories and in a world of potential than be going wholeheartedly down the wrong path and believing fully in something that is manipulated and is someone else's creation that is designed to bring me down. I refuse to believe those kind of things. So it's good to have a free and open mind. And so I hope this book enhances the mindsets of a bunch of you out there and just kind of gives you a different take on where some of our ancient thoughts and religions may have come from. As we find out more about our past and we basically endure this current reset, it's, how can we ever be sure of how many times this place was reset, how many things were put here to make us think a certain way, and what has been lost in the meantime to the truth that's been buried, burned, destroyed, controlled, held captive in places where we can't reach or learn from. Hopefully we'll discover it all someday. There's got to be some method. And if not, we'll figure it out on our way out. But either way, thank you, Sun. Let's dive a little deeper. Thanks for giving us the light. And let's find out a little bit more about you all and the mysteries that surround us every day. Bless you all.